Hello and welcome to our new book that we're reading, ready for our Bible book group. We had a wonderful time talking about Ecclesiastes and Song of Songs, which was, quite a combination, and two very, very different books. And when we met then, we decided that our next books that we would read would be Ruth and Esther. Two Old Testament women, very different women, part of the story of the Old Testament, the people of God's story. And so we're doing these two, Ruth and Esther. We're going to meet for our next discussion on Wednesday the 11th of September. That'll be the last one that we do for this summer. But Wednesday the 11th of September we're going to meet to talk about Ruth and to talk about Esther. So we're starting this week reading Ruth. That'll be just 4 chapters, so that's just today, Tuesday, tomorrow, Wednesday and Thursday. And then we get a day off on Friday, then it's the weekend. Then we've got 10 chapters to do in Esther, so that'll take us the following week and the week after that. And that'll get us through to when we begin morning, evening and night prayer again. So nice to be with you throughout all of the summer, really, as we do these two books across our summer break of daily office. Now, the book of Ruth is it's quite early on in the Old Testament, just after the book of Judges, and it's set in the same time as the book of Judges, and a fascinating book. If you want to find out a bit more about it, go to thebibleproject.org, I think it is. Just search Bible Project anyway, and you will find they have some wonderful overviews of each of the books of the Bible, and I've just been watching the good one of Ruth, telling us all about what happens in the book of Ruth and how it all fits together and the significance of different things. So do that. It's well worth doing, I can tell you. So here we are, the book of Ruth. I'm reading from the contemporary English version, and let's join together with this new book on our Bible book group journey. Ruth chapter 1. Before Israel was ruled by kings, Elimelech from the tribe of Ephrath lived in the town of Bethlehem. His wife was named Naomi, and their 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion. But when their crops failed, they moved to the country of Moab. And while they were there, Elimelech died, leaving Naomi with only her 2 sons. Later, Naomi's sons married Moab women. One was named Orpah, and the other Ruth. About 10 years later, Mahlon and Chilion also died. Now Naomi had no husband or sons. When Naomi heard that the Lord had given his people a good harvest, she and her 2 daughters-in-law got ready to leave Moab and go to Judah. As they were on their way there, Naomi said to them, "Don't you want to go back home to your own mothers? You were kind to my husband and sons, and you have always been kind to me. I pray that the Lord will be just as kind to you. May he give each of you another husband and a home of your own." Naomi kissed them. They cried and said, "We want to go with you and live among your people." But she replied, "My daughters, why don't you return home? What good will it do you to go with me? Do you think I could have more sons for you to marry? You must go back home, because I am too old to marry again. Even if I got married tonight and later had more sons, would you wait for them to become old enough to marry? No, my daughters, life is harder for me than it is for you, because the Lord has turned against me." They cried again. Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth held on to her. Naomi then said to Ruth, "Look, your sister-in-law is going back to her people and to her gods. Why don't you go with her?" Ruth answered, "Please don't tell me to leave you and return home. I will go where you go. I will live where you live. Your people will be my people. Your God will be my God. I will die where you die and be buried beside you. May the Lord punish me if we are ever separated, even by death." When Naomi saw that Ruth had made up her mind to go with her, she stopped urging her to go back. They reached Bethlehem, and the whole town was excited to see them. The women who lived there asked, "Can this really be Naomi?" Then she told them, "Don't call me Naomi any longer. Call me Mara, because God has made my life bitter. I had everything when I left, but the Lord has brought me back with nothing. How can you still call me Naomi when God has turned against me and made my life so hard? The barley harvest was just beginning when Naomi and Ruth, her Moabite daughter-in-law, arrived in Bethlehem. It's the final verse, just kind of, it's a bit of a duff moment. It sets up what's going to happen next, the significance of the barley harvest. But here we have these two women, Ruth, who is a Moabite woman, so not an Israel woman, not a Jewish woman, but a Gentile woman, and her mother-in-law Naomi. Naomi had such a terrible time, had a good life with her husband Elimelech and their two sons, heading over into Moabite country, into Gentile country, because they couldn't find anything to eat when their harvest failed. And then they settled down in Moab, and the two sons married, but then the father died, and then the two boys died, and then they were just Naomi realized it was important to head home, and so she started to go home and told the two daughters-in-law not to come, because it was going to be really hard to be Gentile women, Gentile widows even, in the land of the Israel people, the people of God, and so wanted to send them home. Orpah went. We don't know what happened to her, but Ruth went with Naomi, who then changed her name to Bitterness. It's a great story. It's a beautiful story, beautifully told, and sets up, as I say, our next instalment tomorrow, that the barley harvest was just beginning. So I'll see you tomorrow for chapter 2 of Ruth. Have a good day today. All the very best. God bless. Bye bye.